Hi, welcome to the Fit 5 Coaches Training. My name is Nicole Batista, and I'm the coordinator in the Health Department of Special Olympics Connecticut, overseeing the Fit 5 program. So just a little start off, what is Fit 5? So it's a comprehensive health and wellness education program for our Special Olympics athletes, partners, and families. And it promotes and educates about proper nutrition, hydration, and physical activity. So the three goals that we talk about are eating 5 fruits and vegetables a day, drinking 5 water bottles a day, and exercising 5 days a week. So we want to help participants understand that the healthier the individual, the better the athlete and their quality of life. And the education topics will be discussed either before or after practices by coaches for about 10 to 15 minutes, or you can use it as a break in the middle of practice. So the training agenda for this training will be some tips for implementing Fit 5 at your practices, what the toolkit contains, which is a duffel bag that all coaches will receive and contains all materials that are necessary for Fit 5, and then a weekly overview of all the Fit 5 topics. So each week there's a different topic that will be discussed, and I will tell you some talking points and education tips that you will be giving to your athletes. So if you already have your coach's handbook, it would be helpful if you have it out throughout this webinar and you can follow along as each week is discussed. So your Fit 5 materials are broken up between what the athlete will have and what the coach will have. So every athlete will receive the Fit 5 athlete workbook, and I have pictures of the athlete workbook throughout this webinar, so you'll be able to see that if you don't have it already. Weekly activity tracking sheets, so the athlete will track their nutrition, hydration, and physical activity each week, and that will be discussed at practices. They'll all get a Fit 5 water bottle, and then when the program is completed, they'll receive a Fit 5 t-shirt and certificate of completion. And then every coach will receive their coach's handbook, the coach's toolkit, which has all the materials necessary. They will also get a Fit 5 coach Nike polo, and they will also receive a certificate of training completion once this webinar is completed. So the toolkit that I'm talking about has the materials listed on this slide. So the first thing that the athletes will complete on day one is lifestyle surveys, which surveys them on how their healthy habits are currently. There will be an attendance list that should be taken every practice. Then there are MyPlate paper plates for the nutrition activity with food replicas, cones for the relay race, and I will show you that later. Sugary beverage samples and their corresponding sugar packets for hydration education, resistance bands and dumbbells for the strength activity, a pulse oximeter for the endurance activity, and Fit Deck yoga cards for the flexibility and balance activities. So just some general tips for how you can implement Fit 5 at practices. It's important to try and keep the information as simple as you can whenever possible. So as coaches, you guys know your athletes really well. Just understand how in-depth you can get with nutrition and hydration and adapt that to your specific athletes. Also, each week, make sure you emphasize the number 5 in each weekly goal so that there's a repetitive component to Fit 5, which makes it easier to implement and understand. So like I said, the 5 days a week of exercise, 5 fruits and vegetables a day, and 5 water bottles each day. And also, it's important to make the discussions and activities as interactive as possible so that the athletes don't feel like they're just sitting there and being spoken at, because it's pretty easy to lose interest that way. So we've programmed all of the talking points and activities to include the athletes as much as possible. We've also found it helpful to keep a routine. So for example, if the first week you talk about the Fit 5 topics in the beginning of practice, try and do that for all 8 weeks so that they know that they're expecting to hear about Fit 5 in the beginning. And also, when you are implementing Fit 5, if the first thing you do is talk about their weekly tracking sheets and then you do the activity second, do that each week so that, again, the athletes know what to expect from Fit 5. And as I mentioned before, just make sure you can adapt the health information to your specific group's understanding since you know them best as coaches. So the specific weekly overview for Fit 5 as a program is listed here. So week 1 is just an intro to Fit 5, which goes over the goals of Fit 5, and the lifestyle surveys will be taken by all the athletes. Week 2 is nutrition, so the main topic will be MyPlate education and all the major food groups. Week 3 is hydration. You'll go over sugary drink education and why water and hydration is important in athletics. Week 4 is strength. You will demonstrate some strength exercises and why strength is important for our athletes. Week 5's topic is endurance. They will do some endurance exercises and understand the correlation between endurance and heart. Week 6 is flexibility, so there'll be flexibility exercises and a yoga demonstration. Week 7 is balance. You'll do some balance exercises and help the athletes understand why balance is important for fall prevention and injuries. And then week 8, you'll give out the certificates, t-shirts, and awards to the athletes. So week 1 is Intro to Fit 5. So the first thing that you would want to do is explain to your athletes that you'll be taking 10 minutes at each practice for Fit 5 information. You'll want to introduce and hand out the athlete workbooks that I was telling you about came in the toolkit and the Fit 5 water bottles. And then you would want to direct the athletes to page 2 in the athlete workbook, which is shown here. So the first thing you want to tell them is what Fit 5 is, which is explained on the page 2 of the Fit 5 workbook. So like I said, it's a comprehensive health and wellness program. You're going to be talking to them about healthy habits that include physical activity, nutrition, and hydration. And a way that you can make this interactive is to ask 3 athletes to tell you what the 3 goals of Fit 5 are that are listed right there on the page that they'll be looking at. So some talking points for the coaches, which will be detailed in the coach's handbook that you can have out during practice, is the first thing you could do is what is Fit 5, which we talked about. What are the goals of Fit 5 that are listed on the page? What is a goal specifically? You can help the athletes understand that. So in the coach's handbook, we've listed that it's something you work hard to accomplish or achieve, and then go over what are health goals with them. So some examples that we've come up with are one goal of I want to stop drinking soda, I want to go on a 30-minute walk every day, or I want to lose 10 pounds, and then discussing how they can do that. So for example, I will replace soda with water, I will walk every day before or after dinner, and I will exercise 5 days a week and cut out fast foods. So all of those talking points are listed in the coach's handbook. And then you can either set a health goal as a team, or if you have enough volunteers and partners, you can set them on an individual basis with each athlete. The last thing you would want to do is hand out and complete the lifestyle surveys with each athlete. Again, you might need some volunteer help with this if there's parents that attend practices, or if you have partners, it's helpful if they can help them complete those surveys. And then you're going to hand out and explain the weekly activity tracking sheets. So it's a sheet that has 8 weeks on it, and then it has all 3 goals listed on the side. So what they're going to do is they're going to put a sticker in all the goals that they meet that week, and then they will bring it back each week and discuss it at the beginning of practice. And this is an example of the weekly tracking sheet that I was talking about. So they will put a sticker in the exercise for each day that they exercise, and then the same thing for nutrition and water each day that they reach the 5 goal for that. Week 2 is nutrition, and as I said, you'll begin each session by discussing the weekly activity tracking sheet from the past week. We found that this is important and helpful to hold the athletes accountable so that they are talking about what they did the past week with their peers. So what you're going to do in the beginning is mention that this week's Fit 5 topic is nutrition. And you're going to direct the athletes to page 21 in their athlete workbook, which again is shown right here. It has all the major food groups and some examples listed on it. And then you're going to want to hand out the MyPlate paper plates to each athlete, which come in the toolkit. So some of the talking points you're going to want to discuss are what is the Fit 5 nutrition goal, and hopefully they understand at this point that it's 5 fruits and vegetables a day. The next thing you're going to want to talk about is what is MyPlate. So you're going to want to reference the paper plate that you gave to them, that they'll all hopefully have in their hand, and explain that this is an example of a balanced meal, which is important for a well-balanced diet. And you can go over each of the food groups listed on the MyPlate individually. And as you do that, they can reference page 21 examples. So you can ask them, what are your favorite grains? What are your favorite fruits? What are your favorite meats? And they can look at page 21, look at the pictures or look at the words, and they can give you their favorite foods as examples. So the interactive activity that we came up with for nutrition is what we call the MyPlate relay race. So you're going to split your athletes up into 2 teams, and you're going to put 2 of the life-size MyPlates on either side of the room or gym or whatever practice facility you have. And then the food replicas that are given to you in the toolkit, you're going to place on the opposite side of the room or the gym. You're going to then line up both teams of athletes behind the fake food and have the athlete pick up a food and bring it to the opposite side of the room where the My Plate is and put it on the correct food group category. So I have an example of this on the next slide. So as you can see here in the first top picture on the left, we have the fake food replicas set up on a table and an athlete is picking one up. The second picture you see bringing it over to the other side of the room where the My Plate is and placing it on the proper category with the help of a coach directing him. And the last picture is the completed My Plate. So all of the proper foods are in their proper categories and they were able to see a visual of each food and correlate it to the My Plate paper plate that you were talking about during practice. Week 3's topic is going to be hydration. So again, just begin each session by discussing the activity tracking sheets from the past week, and then mention that this week's Fit 5 topic is hydration. You're going to direct the athletes to page 29 in their athlete workbook, which is shown here, and it's about healthy beverage choices. So first start off by discussing what is the Fit 5 hydration goal, and they should know that it's to drink 5 water bottles per day, and that they should be using or can be using their Fit 5 water bottles that was given to them in the beginning of Fit 5. You can ask them why drinking enough water is important, and some talking points you can tell them is that athletes specifically need to hydrate to replace the water they lose through sweat during exercise. And something that could be helpful is asking any of them if they're Summer Games athletes. Someone will probably say yes. Ask them if it's hot at Summer Games. Most of them will say yes. And ask them if they sweat. Most of them, again, will say yes. So you can kind of give them that example to explain that when you sweat, you need to drink more water to refuel your body for the sport. So that's a nice way that you can make it interactive. And then in reference to page 29, you're going to explain the different categories. So for example, there's red light, yellow light, and green light drinks. So red lights are things like sodas, energy drinks, and sports drinks, and these are not good beverage choices because they're high in sugar, high in calories, and they don't hydrate you very well. Yellow is what you want to drink in moderation, so that's things like low-fat milk and fruit juices. And green are beverage choices that are healthy and you can drink as much as you want, which ideally would be water. So something interactive for this activity would be setting up our hydration education activity. So we have an example of each beverage choice listed on page 29, and we've made the corresponding sugar packets for each drink. So you're going to hand out the sugar packets to the athlete and keep the examples of the beverages with you. And as you hold up, for example, the Coca-Cola, ask the athlete with the corresponding Coca-Cola sugar packet to bring it up to you. And you can then read out loud the content of the Coca-Cola, which is 55 grams of sugar. And they will see the visual of how much sugar is in that soda, and you can explain to them that water is the healthier option because there is no sugar in water. So it's a nice visual and interactive way for them to understand the difference between healthy beverages and also the importance of hydration. And at the end of each education topic, just make sure you distribute the new weekly tracking sheets to the athletes. So this is an example of the sugar packets and the drink samples. So that's what will come in your toolkit. And that's what you will be showing to the athletes, and those are the sugar packets that they will be holding on to. Week 4 topic will be strength. So mention that that is the topic for this week, and then direct the athletes to page 8 in the athlete workbook. So some things that you're going to want to discuss for strength is how many days per week should we do strength exercises. And again, that's listed on the page in the athlete workbook that they should be following along with. So you can ask an athlete that question and they should answer 2 to 3 days each week. Ask them why strength training is important. And some examples you can give them is that it helps us to jump higher, throw farther, and sprint faster, which are all things that many athletes want to do better. And then you can also ask them what are different ways that you can strength train. And they can follow along with the 6 suggestions on page 8. So you can ask 6 different athletes to tell you what is listed on page 8, such as bodyweight exercise, dumbbells, barbells, strength training machines, medicine balls, and resistance bands. And for the interactive visual activity, we have supplied you with dumbbells and resistance bands. So you can demonstrate 2 different ways that they can do bicep curls as a strength training activity. So you can demonstrate them with the dumbbells as shown, and then also you can demonstrate a bicep curl with the resistance bands. And if you have any athletes that want to try it out or you want to show them how to use it, you can do that as well, depending on how much time you have. And then also, as a group, you can demonstrate the exercises that are shown on pages 9 through 11 in the athlete workbook, which I have shown on the next slide. So some strength training activities that they can do at home that you can practice at Fit5 are straight leg raises, curl-ups, and wall push-ups. And they have the directions for each of those exercises in their workbook that they can take home with them so that they're doing more activity outside of practice. So week 5, our topic will be endurance. And just mentioned that this is one way that they can get their 5 days of exercise each week, and direct athletes to page 4 in their athlete workbook. So first thing you can discuss is what is endurance, and just explain to them that endurance is the ability of your body to keep moving for long periods of time. For example, practices are usually about an hour. Games can be anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes. That can be a long time of exercising, so that's an example of how their bodies can utilize endurance. And they can also follow along on page 4. All of that information is typed out for them. And the next thing you can ask them is how many days a week should we do endurance exercises and how many minutes per day. So the recommended goal is 5 days per week for at least 30 minutes. And then you can again ask them what different ways they can endurance train, and they can follow the 6 suggestions from page 4. So maybe asking 6 different athletes than you did last week for strength to tell you the 6 different recommendations on page 4. Which are running, biking, dancing, brisk walking, aerobics classes, and swimming. Then the interactive activity that we came up for endurance is using the pulse oximeter to show them how the heart is used during endurance training. So in your toolkit, you will receive a pulse oximeter, which you easily just put on an athlete's finger, and it will measure their heart rate. So you're going to want to do that first, measure their resting heart rate, which is usually anywhere between like 60 and 80 beats per minute. So measure that and then tell the group what the number is. Then as a group do 10 jumping jacks and explain that that's an example of an endurance activity. And then measure the same athlete's exercise heart rate, and it should be higher. So it should be anywhere between, say, 95 to 120. And so since it's a higher number, you can explain to them that their heart rate increases because they did activity, and that's healthy for them and is improving their heart muscle. Again, then distribute the new weekly tracking sheets for the following week. And these are some examples of exercises that you can demonstrate on pages 5 through 7 in the athlete workbook. If you have time, you can do 10 of each of these exercises as a group, or you can reference that they can do these at home outside of practice. So again, some examples are jumping jacks like you would have just done in the activity, quick punches, and marching or high knees. And again, all of the instructions for these activities are listed in the workbook for them to use on their own. Week 6 topic is flexibility. So you're going to mention that that is a topic for the week and direct them to page 12 in the athlete workbook. The first thing you can discuss is what is flexibility, and they can read along on page 12 that flexibility is the ability of your body to move easily in all directions. How many days a week should we do flexibility exercises? You can ask an athlete and they should be able to read the page and answer 2 to 3 days a week. And then you can ask 3 more athletes to tell you what are the different types of flexibility exercises, and they can follow the 3 suggestions on page 12 of yoga, static stretching, and dynamic stretching. You can also explain to them that static stretching is stretches that you do without moving, so stretches where you're just standing still, and dynamic stretching are stretches where you're moving, so things like forward lunges and things that you would do in the beginning of practice. And you can then, as a group, do each flexibility exercise or stretch on page 13 in the athlete workbook, which include the calf stretch, child's pose, and knee to chest, which are demonstrated right here. And you can hold each stretch for 30 seconds as a group, and also let them know that these are some exercises that they can do at home to prepare for Fit5 at practices. Week 7 topic is balance. So you're going to want to direct athletes to page 14 in the athlete workbook. You're going to want to discuss what is balance, and they can read along that balance is the ability of your body to stay upright or stay in control of your movements. And they will usually understand that that's something that is important for their sport, whether they are doing floor hockey or swimming or basketball. They always want to stay upright and in control of their movements to be a better athlete. So you can explain that to them. and then ask them how many days a week should we work on balance. They can answer 2 to 3 days each week as listed on page 14, and you can ask them how we can improve balance, and 3 athletes can give you the demonstrations from page 14, which are yoga, static balance, and dynamic balance. So there is some carryover from last week, and you can explain to them that static balance is something like standing on one leg and not moving, and dynamic balance is something like walking on a straight line, and that's when they are moving. And you can then, as a group, do each balance exercise that is listed on pages 15 through 17 in the athlete workbook, and include a standing leg stance, leg swings, and walking in a line. And we will also attach demonstration videos of all of these Fit 5 exercises where this GoToMeeting is posted. So if you need further instruction or just want more examples of how to do these exercises and how athletes complete these exercises, you can watch those videos after this webinar. And these are again demonstrated here. So you're going to want to hold each balance exercise for 30 seconds. And if you do the walking in a line exercise, you're going to have them walk 20 steps forward, starting with their right leg, turn around and walk 20 steps backwards, starting with their left leg. And all of these instructions are also listed out in their athlete workbook for them to follow. So week 8 is the last week of Fit 5. And this is when we're going to give out their awards and certificates. So you're going to want to begin by asking to see the activity tracking sheets and talk about how meeting the Fit 5 goals got easier or harder throughout the program, and if tracking their activity helped them stay on track with all of their goals. Also ask them to reiterate the Fit 5 goals, and hopefully they can tell you them without referencing the workbook. So you're going to want to reiterate 5 days a week of exercise, 5 water bottles a day, and 5 fruits and vegetables a day. And also talk about the importance of continuing to meet these Fit 5 goals every week, even when practice ends. So some athletes may do a spring sport and not do a summer sport or a winter sport. So you want to tell them that it's important to keep up these goals and these habits even when they're not at Special Olympics practices, and that's why they're going to keep the athlete workbook with all of the exercises that they can follow at home. Then you're going to want to hand out the lifestyle surveys that were completed in the beginning. So this is a survey that's similar to the one that is completed before Fit 5, and it just has some follow-up questions about how Fit 5 helped them, do they feel healthier, and did they increase all of their goals as the program went on. Again, you might need some parent help or partner help here. And the last thing you're going to do is hand out the certificates and the t-shirts to each athlete. So once Fit 5 is over, it is important that you return the following things to the SOCT office. So this includes the coach's handbook, the Fit 5 toolkit with all of the materials inside, the pre- and post-program lifestyle surveys, because we like to see how our athletes improved when they received the Fit 5 information, the attendance sheet, and all of the weekly tracking sheets so that we can see if they improved each week or each day throughout Fit 5. So if you have any questions about Fit 5 or you need more materials or coaches' handbooks, my contact information is listed here on the slide. And you can contact me at NicoleB@SOCT.org, or you can call 203-230-1201, extension 261. And again, there are some additional resources that we will provide along with this webinar for Fit 5. But any questions that you have, feel free to contact me. And good luck with Fit 5.